Hey y'all, what's up? My name is Tony Alyssa. If you're new here, welcome, and if you're not, welcome back. So in today's video, I just wanted to do a dedicated sit down video of how God blessed me with my apartment that I'm in. So if you're interested in that, definitely stay tuned. Okay, so if you've been following my channel and my journey for a while, you would know that God told me to move last year about sometime in June or sometime in June. He told me to move. And then I moved here. You should just watch the vlog. I'll link it. I moved here on June 22nd. So from then, I literally was just doing DoorDash and Uber Eats every day and paying for hotels every day. So I would check in around like 11 p.m. when I'm finished DoorDashing and doing Uber Eats. And then I wake up, check out around, I think I had to leave at 11 a.m. either that or 10 a.m. and I'd check out and do it all over again. So on this one day, I don't think I made a lot of money doing DoorDash the day before, so I just had like enough to pay for the room. I didn't want to keep asking my sister for money, and so because like I said in previous videos, from coming from a person who worked like from the time I started working, I've been working the same job. I grew in that company and I never had to ask people for money. I can think of like one time, which was closer to the time like God told me to quit, when I had to ask for money from my sister. But people would literally be asking me for money, not the other way around. So that again was pride, me not wanting to have to ask my sister. So I was like, I'll do like a few orders, then cash out and buy gas. So if you don't know anything about DoorDash, you can only cash out once per day. And then for Uber Eats, you can do up to 5 times a day, but Uber Eats was not giving as many orders as DoorDash. So the platform that I chose to make that gas money off of and then cash out was DoorDash. So I was doing DoorDash and I think I had only made, let's say like about $10. By the time I cash out, I would only have like $8. So I was like, and then a double order came in, not too far, but when I said my tank was on E, it was on E. So I was like, yeah, I can make it. Okay, so I did the first person, I did the second person. When I'm leaving the second person's neighborhood, I was like, okay, Google, I was on maps, where's the nearest gas station? Because I've been writing on like the bottom, like at the last, like the meter can't, like the little thing, it can't go anymore. So I was like, I've been writing on this for a minute. Let me look up the nearest gas station. Yeah, it had to be like 0.5, even maybe let's say like a mile away, right? I was like, great, everything is working out. So I stopped at a stop sign, like the last stop sign to get onto like a main road. And then I stopped, cars were passing, and I was like, okay, cool, I could go. Y'all, when I pressed that gas, that car would not move. Like, as a matter of fact, it kind of like jerked a bit, and I was like, no, it's no way I just ran out of gas. And then my car started tripping. I don't know what it was. I was trying to turn it on. And then the thing is, I was a little bit in the road. Nonetheless, I ran out of gas. So I started panicking, and I was like, I had a gas tank because I had all my stuff in my car, and I brought a gas tank for when I drove from Georgia to Texas. So I took the gas tank, I would try to put gas in it. I knew no gas was in the gas tank, but y'all, when I said I was panicking, I'm calling my sister. Y'all, it had not even been that long, but when you're going through that, it feels like forever. And so this guy and his wife, they pulled up behind me. I did not see them because people were just going around me at this point when they see like, okay, my car isn't moving. But this one couple, they stopped and he walked up behind me while I was on the phone with my sister, like, bro, I just ran out of gas. What am I gonna do? He was like, hey, you need help? And I was like, yes, like I just ran out of gas. He was like, okay, cool, don't worry about it. First things first, let's just get your car out of the road. So we got that situated, got my car, like, cause it was a little bit like in the main road. So we just pushed it back up behind that stop sign, and I got my gas tank, went in their car. So when I was in their car, we were just talking. We were just having regular conversation. They were telling me where they were from. I told them like, yeah, because they seen all the stuff in my car. So I was like, yeah, like, you know, I just moved from Georgia. I mean, at this point, I had to be there like a month at this point. But I was like, yeah, like I just road trip from Georgia. Right now I'm in hotels. But I'm thinking, and this was off of like fear, doubt, not understanding like God's plan. when I was looking, like this whole time I had been looking for apartments because I just knew when I moved to Dallas, it's gonna be a miraculous story. I'm gonna get an apartment in the same week, whatever, right? So when I was on Instagram, I would see the prices in Houston and I'd be like, they get this much, but that little in Houston, like in Dallas, is so much more expensive. So I was telling them like, yeah, I even been thinking like, should I just move to Houston because it's cheaper, XYZ? And they were like, no, like you're gonna be miserable. The weather, the this, the that, whatever. And he was like, honestly, you're in the best place possible. So I'm like, bro, this is just God speaking through them at this point. And so he ended up telling me like, hey, this area, in their opinion, is the best price. So I was like, okay, cool. We got the gas, got back on the road. And when I finished that out, like when I had that whole situation was done and I went back in park to continue dashing, I was like, God, all of this just to tell me what apartment or like what area to go, like what area to look for an apartment in. I was like, whatever. Like sometimes I'm the type of person, like I'm a very chill person. Like I can be loud like when I'm around people that I'm comfortable with, but I don't like drama. I don't like extravagant stuff. I know some people want like an extravagant testimony, but I hope you realize when you want an extravagant testimony, that means you have to go through some extravagant things, right? I'm not with that. But I was like, God, all of this just to tell me what area to look in. So I was like, you know what? Let me just start looking at that area. And when I was looking in that area, I seen an apartment that I looked at like a month ago when I first came, but I was like, oh, that says like August. By that time, I'm gonna need something before that because for sure I'm not gonna be in hotels for this long. Lo and behold, should have just stuck with that from since then. So, and even before this prior to this thing, like I said, I had been looking at apartments and I was getting frustrated because I had been in hotels for a while and I just knew I wouldn't be in hotels for that long. So I was just pondering on it and God had told me like, it's gonna be a situation like your Jeep. So you can look back at that video how I got my Jeep, but the main thing was write the vision, make it plain, and then have faith. So I wrote down everything that I wanted and I'll put like pictures up as I'm talking, but I wrote everything that I wanted. And the biggest thing that I wanted was new construction. Like no one lived in it before and this apartment had been it. However, because these apartments was taking so long to get finished, I was just trying to settle for like any old apartment. I was like, man, like I even take a studio. And to me, don't take it like as a studio is settling, but for what I had to ask God for, it would be settling for what I could get at that moment and not for what I already asked God for. So now we're back to the day that I'm looking up and I was like, okay, cool. These are the apartments. And then another thing was that since I had been looking for apartments, I had been calling around and I was like, bruh, these people are not gonna take DoorDash and Uber Eats income. Like, it's no regular pay stubs, it's off of an app. Like how I would call this one thing and they were like, yeah, well, you could just send your bank statements and we'll verify your income off of that. Do y'all just want me not to get this apartment? I'm not showing you my bank statement. So I was like, yeah, no. So I ended up calling the apartment that I'm at right now and I said, hey, I do Uber Eats and DoorDash. How can I present my income to you? And they were literally like, screenshot, show us how much you made, and then we could go from there. So their prices also were good, like in the sense that it would work for me because they were still building up. They had deals. A lot of people hadn't moved in as yet, and so everything was working out in my favor. And then prior to that, I'm just trying to tell y'all like how God prepared me up until that point. Before that, again, I had been like complaining within my mind, murmuring within my mind and stuff, and like doubting God. And then one day, even before I ran out of gas and I was talking to those people, I was just like, Tony, try to make, the 3 times the income. Because I had just been dashing. It wasn't like I wasn't trying to make money, but I was like, okay, enough for that room. I didn't have a goal. I didn't have like a monthly goal of like a suitable income to even get an apartment. I was just like, bruh, I feel like this apartment is just gonna drop out of the sky type vibe. So a few weeks prior, of course, God prepared me and I was like, let me start dashing and try to make like $1,000 or $1,200 a week. So that the income could be 3 times the rent. So by the time they had told me this, I was like, perfect, like I'm almost at that goal, and I should be straight to get into this apartment. So as we were getting closer to the time, well, first I prayed. I was like, God, when should I apply? I felt like God gave me a date, and so I was like, okay, cool. But in my mind, I'm like, God, like apartments are gonna be gone by then, because I think they only have like 2 or 3 left, and I would assume they would be going quickly because the prices were good. So, but I was like, you know what? If you tell me this date, this is just what I'm gonna go with. So closer to the date, I realized that for 4 weeks, which will be a month, I would not be hitting the goal of 3 times the rent. I was like, but in my journal, I was writing like, bro, I'm doing everything that I can. At this point, I'm not about to stress. God is just gonna have to move. Like, this is gonna have to be where God gets the glory, where God shows up and shows out. All I could give God is my faith. And that was the same thing that I did with my car when I went ahead and got my Jeep. So I think it was like a week prior, I called my mom and my sister and I was like, let's just go on a fast. So we went on a fast for, I don't know how long. It had to be like 3 days or so. And I even wrote in my journal, like on the first day, me and my sister had like some sort of dream or something, or like the enemy was trying to trip us up, and she was like, okay, cool, they're trying to block us from something, so we are on the right path within fasting, believing, praying, reading God's word. So after that, the day had came. I still was not at the goal of 3 times the rent in income, but I was like, at this point, this is just faith. So I went up to the place and I was like, hey, I wanted to apply. I was supposed to apply with a different girl, but then I ended up applying, I think, with the property manager and like the assistant man. I don't know what she was, because the other girl was busy. She was like, okay, I'll just get you in. So at first she was like, what were you looking for? I was like, either a studio or a 1-bedroom, right? And I was like, I just don't know what I could qualify for. And so she was like, oh, okay, let me see. So I went ahead and applied. I showed her all my pay stubs, like the screenshots and stuff. And then I had went to get a money order to put like a deposit or like a application fee or something like that. And when I came back, I was like, hey, we never talked about like what apartment I'm actually applying for. She was like, a studio, right? She was like, you could apply for a studio. And I was like, okay, but I'm still like telling you, like, go over it. So I'm going over the application, and I realized that she didn't add 1 week. And so I was like, hey, I just realized that the total that I'm coming up with for how much money I made and what you're coming up with is different. Like, you forgot to add this. And so when she added, I was like, so what do I qualify for now? And she was like, you could either get a studio or 1-bedroom. So I was like, okay, cool, let's do the 1-bedroom. She said like it wouldn't be ready as quick as a studio, but I was like, it doesn't matter, like, let's just apply. Again, I said like, that is what I asked God for, and I didn't want to settle or like try to get in just out of like fear and stuff like that, even after all the crap that I have been through in these hotels. But I didn't want to like fear win. So I applied. She was like, okay, cool, since you applied, at the end of the day, I'll get back to you tomorrow. So, or well, like, you should get a decision by tomorrow. So in the morning, I didn't realize that I had got a text from her saying like, hey, could you send like an email of your pay stubs? I had seen the text message like 40 minutes or like an hour or 2 hours later. And so I ended up sending something else. I was like, I hope this helps. She was like, oh no, never mind, like, we don't even need it. No, before that, I was like, God, please, like, why do I always have to do something extra? Like, I don't want to have to be tripped up because she needs this. When I sent it, she was like, never mind, we don't need it anymore. So I was like, great. By the end of that day, I got an email that said your request, or like your something has been accepted or approved. So I was like, does this mean that I have the apartment? I was like, regardless, I'm gonna just praise God and keep it pushing. And then the day after that, she called me and said, hey, sorry I didn't get back to you yesterday, we were really busy, but I just wanted to tell you that you are approved for the apartment. So I'm like, great. I thought like I wouldn't get it because of the income that I had, or like the type of income, which is like contract work that I had, and I still got it. I didn't have to show bank statements or anything. And so that was in itself for me a praise report, because when I tell y'all, like, getting an apartment, the more I seen like how my life was going in these hotels, every day is like a struggle to make money. Every day is like something else come up, this come up. I'm like, bro, if my life is like this, at what point am I gonna get an apartment? And it came from me literally running out of gas. So after that, so I applied in August. She told me the apartment will be ready in October. So I was like, okay, Tony, thug it out 1 more month, you'll be fine. So I'm going through September, of course, still going through trials, still going through this. And like, y'all, when people talk about trials, sometimes they breeze over it and it makes you seem like, okay, I'm gonna just go through a season. But I don't think people's mind, well, my mind doesn't really comprehend, oh, we just go through a season of struggle until you live it. So it's like, I'll go through stuff with people at the hotel, attitudes. It was this one dude. I'm not trying to like glorify it, but I'm just trying to let y'all know, like, you will face trials, but trials come in different like aspects of different people's lives. So for me, it was money, so, or like finances and stuff. So it was this one dude, I wanted to do like a split payment on 2 different cards because I didn't want to have to transfer and pay out the transfer fees. I already trying to scrape for change. So he was like, we don't like to do that. I don't know if he thought I meant like I wanted to pay half tonight and then half tomorrow, but he was like, we don't like to do that. Are you telling me that you don't have enough money? Yeah, he was so rude and he was so mad. And in that day in particular, I had a horrible day. Like, I was trying to make money so bad and everything kept going wrong. Of course, like me running out of gas, it was just like trial after trial after trial. And I'm gonna look up how many days I stayed in hotels because I think it should be on the app just to see how many days of struggle I had. Like, I don't want y'all to be deceived, like, okay, like it'll just be a week, it'll just be a little time. And it's not for me to say the time really and truly, because if you grasp the concept of what God is trying to show you, your time could be quicker than mine, right? So anyways, moving on. So I went through September. I ended up calling them at the end of September because I'm like, okay, cool, if they say October, they should be, calling me like, hey, we're almost done, when do you want to move in? I didn't get a call. So I called them and I was like, hey, just want to see, like, how far are y'all on the apartments? And they were like, what apartment are you, like, what building? So I told her the building, I told her the apartment number. And she was like, I'm not sure, like, we don't have a date. I was like, oh, she told me, like, it'll be ready in October. And she was like, yeah, like, no. I'm like, God, this is not it. She said, I thought you were gonna say another building because they're about to move in soon, but no, your building, no, it's not ready. So I'm like, great. Okay. So I'm like, God, I need relief. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of doing hotels every single day, lugging bags, lugging suitcases up and down. And then the hotel that I stayed in the most did not have an elevator, and they would usually put me on the 2nd floor, which means I'm pulling suitcases up and down the stairs for over like 100 days. It was getting old, right? So I was like, God, please. Like, it was this one day when the Texas State Fair, around that time is when I left. And I was like, I was starting to book my room for the weekend, or like for Friday and Thursday. And I'm like, why are these hotels so expensive? And then I get around, I'm like, crap, the State Fair, that's why. And I was like, God, like, can I please go back to Augusta? And I got confirmation, like, yes, you could go back to Augusta. Now, this is where I went wrong. So I went back to Augusta. I think I went back on a Friday, but I arrived like 1 a.m. on a Saturday. So on the weekend, I rested, and then I was like, okay, cool. Let me start building up money now that I don't have to dash and spend money every single day on a hotel. I was doing that, but it's Augusta, so it's slower, not as much money. And keep in mind, through this time, some of my bills were suffering. Some of them weren't, because it's like bills that I have to pay, but my car note was the biggest thing that was suffering. And so I think it was about a Wednesday when I think it was about a Wednesday. I went on their website, my apartment's website, and I seen that, back it up. On a weekend, I think the day after I arrived, I had a dream that I would not be on I would not be on the floor that I applied for, that I would be upgraded to the top floor, which is what I originally wanted. But the only floor that they had available was the one under the top floor. So I was like, okay, cool, I'm looking out for that. Wednesday come now, and it's a different building, but the floor that I want. I was like, God, you so funny, like I just came back. It's no way. This is what I'm thinking. It's no way you about to make me drive back 13 hours after I just left. I didn't ask God. This is just what I said. I did not ask God. I did not pray about it. I think I looked at it for one more day. And then when I realized that crap, I didn't even ask God, by the next Saturday, it was gone. So, okay, cool. It could not have been God. November roll around. They're still not ready. They're still not ready to go. They still don't have a time that my apartment will be ready. Mistake, car is repoed now. So here's what I say is my fault. When God told me to come back, that it's okay for me to go back to Augusta, it was for me to gather the rest of myself, because I didn't walk with every single thing that I wanted to bring when I would have moved into my apartment, because I didn't know when I was moving into an apartment. So it was literally for me to gather my stuff. Now I'm worrying about, God, I just drove here. I don't want to have to drive back this week. Like, that was a long drive. When in reality, if I would have asked God, if I would have called them, I would have realized that I would have been moved into that apartment like 3 days, 3 days before my car got repoed. And that is what, like, I realized, y'all, and I think I even said this, like, oh, I don't want to give up like this girl testimony who I watch, or like go back home. And I went back home. God said I could go back home. But when I said I tried to add a little razzle-dazzle on a plan that wasn't mine, that's what happened. So no, the car getting repoed was that was just a drag. So I ended up getting my car back. Now we're in December, and I got my car back. No, it's in December. They called me and it was like, hey, like, it's okay for you to move in now. We're ready. Give us a date. And I'm like, bro, I think we were talking like the day after Christmas or the day before Christmas. I was like, yeah, no, that's not gonna work at all. And so I opted to move, I don't know, like the last Friday in the month or something like that. But what was the factor that was trying to keep me back? Money. So I'm like, God, like, I know you want me to move, but at this point, I truly, like, y'all, that car getting repo thing was traumatic. And I know a lot of people be like, yeah, y'all just irresponsible, y'all just this. Like, if it was up to me, I would have never moved the way that I moved. And for me, I know my car would have been paid if I was working, but God knows more than me. God called me to quit right after I got my car. God called me to stay in them hotels, build up XYZ. It was God's plan, not my plan. So regardless of how I felt, regardless of what I wanted, I just surrendered my plans for God's plans. My car would have never gotten a repoed, even though like I wasn't paying it, if I would have consulted God. That one little decision. If I would have had consulted God on that apartment in that other building, right? So because I literally would have been here and they would not have been able to repo my car. That's what the lady told me on the phone. So I originally, when I realized like I wouldn't have enough money to simply get back here and pay another deposit for what I don't know, but because I'm pretty sure I already paid a deposit when I applied. Anyways, when I realized that, I was like, okay, let me call her. I was like, hey, would I be able to move in on the weekend instead? And she was like, no, we don't do move-ins on the weekend. I was like, okay, cool. Then it comes to the day before, and I'm like, I'm definitely not gonna be able to have enough money. So I called them. I was like, hey, can I just move in January instead? Because she was like, why? Like, is it that? She asked me something, and I was like, no, like, I just won't be in town. And she was like, oh, okay, we'll make an exception. You can come on Saturday, or I think it was Saturday. And I'm like, wow, won't you look at that? And why I knew it had to happen in December and not January in the new year, I really believe like God wanted me, one, he wanted to fulfill his promise with me moving and getting my apartment last year. And two, I feel like it was also spiritual with me being in a new location, the location that God called me to be in before we hit the new year. So anyways, when she confirmed that I could move in on the weekend, I was like, okay, cool. On the day before that, I left for Texas, like to move into our apartment. I'm like, okay, cool. I need like, let's say like $100 more. I can't remember how much money I needed, but it was more than 100. And I was like, okay, let me just do DoorDash. Let me just do Uber Eats and let me get this money up. I just went to, at like the end of the day, because I wanted to leave to wake up like at 12 a.m. so I could drive and arrive by the time, I think she told me to come before 2 p.m. in Texas time. And Texas is CST, Augusta is EST. So I was like, okay, cool. I had to wake up at 12 a.m. to go. I had not made the money that I needed to make, but I was like, forget it. I just had to go home. My sister was like, okay, we'll just stay out, try to make some money, and we'll just give it to you. So I was like, okay, cool. I could not sleep for nothing. So I think I got home like 7. I got home at 7, so that leave me like 5 hours to sleep. I had not packed my car up. I had not, y'all, it was like mission. It was just like a mission to get to Texas. It was a whole thing. So I was like, forget it. I'm just going to sleep. Could not sleep for nothing. And I'm sleeping, but like my brain is still active. And so if I slept, because I know like sometimes I would doze off, it had to be tops 30 minutes, maybe an hour. So now I'm driving to Texas off of 30 minutes and maybe an hour of disturbed sleep. So I just drove the whole way because I didn't want to have to, obviously I can't stay in a hotel if I'm telling her like I'm coming 2 p.m. on Saturday or by 2 p.m. on Saturday. So I could not like go to another hotel in between that 13-hour drive and sleep. Nonetheless, glory be to God, I got here, I moved into my apartment, and it just felt like I went to like a weight lifted off of me. But it was just like, wow, like I actually moved to Texas. But I did want to give y'all my testimony on how I moved, and I wanted to give this testimony also because I know I made a video back a while back saying like the way my life was going, I thought I didn't hear God. Like I know people like to throw out like if it's God it's gonna be easy, if it's God it's gonna be a breeze, if it's God it won't be any resistance. And while that may be true sometimes what God calls you to do, you will have resistance. Like the Israelites had to fight when God sent them out. They had to go to war. To possess the land that God have for them. So it's not always that your journey is going to be easy. It's not always that it's going to look like peaches and cream and like everything like blessings after blessings, breakthrough after breakthrough. It's seasons for that. But I had to accept that at that time it was a season of suffering, it was a season of pruning, and it definitely was a wilderness season. And so I just want y'all to be encouraged, have faith, and trust God. You literally just have to have faith. I know a lot of times we may get mad, we may cry, and all these other things. We may be like, God, like, what are you doing? We'll get mad at God. But y'all, God is not moved by feelings, he's moved by faith. So after you get them feelings out, because I had to get my feelings out, repent, renounce, come out of agreement with those vows that you made over yourself. Do not speak word curses over yourself or over the very thing that you're praying to God for, and keep pushing forward. Have faith in God. And all of this is easier said than done, but I just hope my testimony helps y'all and also encourage y'all to allow God to move in your life. So y'all can definitely share your testimonies below. I'll be making more videos, hopefully more often, and I do want to talk about like 1 year since I quit my job, so that may be my next video. So I'll see y'all in my next one. Bye.